I have to ask the question, will driverless cars be roaring us down the highway or steering us into a dead end? I'm joined here in the studio by technology journalist Kate Bevan, and from our central London studio, Matt Lewis, who's principal consultant at the risk assessment company NCC Group. I quite fancy a go at this, Kate. Are you going to put your name down for a trial?
Not yet, I don't think. I think I'd rather be in a car that's actually driven by a human being.
Tell me why.
Because I think there's a lot of work to be done with driverless cars yet. If you look at the way Google's going about it, it's mapped very closely. It's sort of 2,000 miles in California that it can use. And it's not a map, it's a really closely mapped track. So we're not there yet with the rest of the roads in the rest of the world. It's not going to be on the A3 just yet, I don't think.
Matt Lewis, what do you think the risks are?
So the main one is, I guess, safety, which is closely linked to security. So a lot of issues around the fact that computers will be possibly making split-second decisions on our behalf. So you can imagine scenarios where maybe a small child runs out in front of the car. Does the vehicle go into the child or try and possibly go into the side of the road, possibly damaging the car and the people inside that vehicle? So there's those sorts of elements. From a cybersecurity perspective, there's the fact that there's so many sensors and interfaces on the vehicle that all of those present a potential attack vector into the vehicle. So you can imagine scenarios where maybe malware could propagate throughout the sort of autonomous car network.
Can you just explain
that sort of thing?
Sorry, to just explain what an attack vector is.
So any way where someone might be able to replay data or put some sort of data into the vehicle through an interface, like a wireless interface or some sort of sensor that's receiving input from the outside world. And what we've seen from our own research at NCC Group on just current vehicles, not autonomous vehicles, is that there are many issues in the software on components that process that sensor information. So attackers might be able to exploit that to gain control of the vehicle.
I've got two naysayers here, haven't I? In theory, yes, I accept there is a risk, but isn't it, I mean, in Matt's example of the child jumping out on the road, isn't it likely the machine will respond quicker and make a better decision than the average human?
That's actually one of the reasons for going for them, because, you can program that in to see how it deals with things like that. It's a bit like Asimov's laws of robot, isn't it? Which one do you harm first, or do you harm at all? So that's going to be an interesting one. So yeah, there's all sorts of philosophical stuff there as well. Having said that, a lot of the technology is already in cars. You've got autonomous cruise control, you've got recognising where the road lines are and things like that. So maybe it's not that far off after all. Certainly the technology's there.
I don't know if you've ever used the Terminal 5 parking system, Matt Lewis, but they've got driverless pods there that whisk you from the car park into the terminal. Admittedly, I've only done it once, well, actually twice, there and back. I came out of it unscathed. This can be done, can't it?
So certainly, I mean, we saw Vince Cable say that the technology's there, and there's no doubt about that. It's whether that security has been embedded into the technology. What we often see in the industry is that security is an afterthought. Especially with the driverless car, everyone wants to be quick to market to be that first company who's pushing this technology. But if security is an afterthought, it gets put in at the end, it's not secure by design. That's where the vulnerabilities might be in the cyberspace.
I suppose that in all this, maybe the description of the story we've given this, the driverless car, is wrong. We're not actually suggesting that, Kate, are we? We're suggesting an automated car that the passenger can be passive. We're not actually taking the human beings out of the equation altogether yet.
No, it's going to be a bit like aircraft, aren't they, that have autopilot. I mean, in theory, you can have an aircraft that, I think an Airbus can do everything without the intervention of a human being. But you do feel rather more comfortable knowing there's a couple of pilots there, don't you?
And that would be the intermediate stage, wouldn't it?
I think it would be.
Driver-assisted cars, I suppose.
Assisted driving, yes.
Or assisted driving cars.
Yes, what do we need to say there? That's quite a tricky one, how to say it.
But how would, Matt, just as a final thought, would the risk companies then say to the insurers and to us as individuals, as we try to protect ourselves, no way, Jose, the premiums will be actually through the roof on this?
It's an interesting point. I guess it's sort of up for discussion around where liability will lie in this space. And I guess that's sort of secondary to the technology aspect, but it's certainly something that needs to be ironed out and understood early on.
So, bit of an uphill struggle, Kate.
Yeah, first gear you need to be in.
OK, Matt Lewis, Kate Bevan, thank you both very much indeed.